Joining us now is the director of Oklahoma City bombing American Terror, Greg Tillman. Greg, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
So, Greg, this week it marks 30 years, a rather grim anniversary. Why was it important for you to be the one to tell this story?
Well, I think it's important to just continue to tell this story, because every time you go out and interview somebody else who hasn't spoken about this story before, you get another facet, another look into what happened, and another reminder of kind of the horrible result of hatred and divisiveness taken to its extreme.
Well said. And speaking of just that, did you uncover anything new or maybe anything that surprised you about the bombing during your time researching and making this documentary?
The thing that I'm most proud about in this show are some people who really haven't spoken about what happened to them in the experience talk to us. And Renee Moore was a woman that had not spoken to very many people at all about this, and she tragically lost her 6-month-old baby who was in the daycare center in the building when it went down. And I think she's really the heart of the show. You know, she represents a lot of people. A lot of folks lost family members, children. 19 kids died in the building. But she tells us her story, and I think it's a beautiful thing and a brave thing for her to do that. This is what happens when people use violence to express themselves.
And it takes, like you said, such courage to tell these stories, and thinking about that little baby, that was such an impactful, poignant storyline. That baby would now be around 30 today. So it's very eerie and I'm sure very painful week for all of those survivors that spoke to you. And for those that might not know or remember, there is a link from this terrible event to another one here in Central Texas that we know all too well. That, of course, being the Waco siege. Can you talk about the Waco connection and how it became a motive for this bombing?
Well, Timothy McVeigh, who was the bomber, Oklahoma City bomber in 1995, he was fascinated with guns, and his whole life he loved guns and was very concerned with gun rights, and spent a couple of years before this traveling around the country. He's kind of a vagrant, driving from gun show to gun show. He was fascinated by a book called The Turner Diaries, which was it's a horrible book, but it's about an American white revolution in America, and he heard about Waco when it was happening during the siege in 1993. And he drove there and, like so many people, kind of sat on the outskirts of the siege. And he kind of tries to rewrite history afterwards and talks about how he was so upset with what happened in Waco and how people died there. But I really think what he was mostly concerned about was the fact that the gun rights that he believed the people inside the compound had were being infringed upon. When he was there, he was selling bumper stickers about guns. So he was upset about the fact that he thought the Clinton administration was going to take away his rights as a gun owner. And in 1994, when Bill Clinton signed the assault weapons ban, that was really kind of the thing that tipped him over the edge.
And to add a little more historical context, McVeigh chose April 19th as the date because it was the second anniversary of the violent end of that botched Waco siege. And Greg, you've also worked on that Netflix documentary, Waco, American Apocalypse. And in this documentary on Oklahoma City, it was interesting to see how you included how reporters and other figures early on were putting those pieces together slowly of the two coincidences that turned out not to be coincidences rather at all. And the last few years, domestic terrorism, especially with anti-government sentiment, has been on the rise. In 2023, the FBI director testified that domestic terrorism investigations more than doubled since 2020. That being said, you touched on this a little. What do you think we as a nation can learn about that from Waco and the Oklahoma City bombings, and especially through your films?
Well, I do think that as our country becomes more divided politically, and we live in a world where our media is very fractured now. We're not trying to just get the truth fast the way we used to from our news. We're getting opinion constantly, and a lot of that opinion is that the folks on the other side, no matter what side you're on, don't matter. They're evil. They're an enemy of the state. This kind of thing, and the more that rhetoric continues, the easier it is for people on the far left or the far right to do violence, to the people that are being dehumanized by our leaders and by the media. So I think this is, again, it's a reminder that, okay, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to take a look at the result. And the result is that hundreds of innocent people in this case, and children, are dead. And I think it's important to continue to remind people that's what happens when you use violence to express yourself politically.
And I think that your message from this film comes across loud and clear. That's Greg Tillman, director of Oklahoma City bombing, American Terror. Greg, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you.
Really appreciate the time.
Documentary premieres on Netflix Friday, April 18th. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave us a comment below to let us know your thoughts on this video. And don't forget, you can watch full episodes of Austin Insight for free in the PBS app.